Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to episode 9 of the 2020 Rewind. We're taking a look back at some additional level 50 characters I have on City of Heroes, the Homecoming server, in the Excelsior Shard. And tonight's episode is my first defender of the bunch, Otto von Kleese. He is a Traps, Electric Blast, Energy Mastery Defender. How many Energy Mastery Defenders do you think are out there? This is a pretty unique combo, I think, which was one of the things I was going for with a lot of these builds. Just some stuff that the average Joe or Jane out there is not playing. And Traps is probably one of those unsung, power sets out there that doesn't get a lot of glory. But I know anybody who's ever played one thinks they're awesome because they are. And the one thing I really enjoyed with this guy in the build, which you'll see, is that you can, with the defender traps, the amount of defense you're able to put together just with like force field generator is insane. I think it's like 40% defense is just that power alone. But anyway, let's take a look at the build and we'll go over what the plan is, what the strategy is. Here is mids. Boom. All right, so Otto von Kleese, a couple things right off the bat that I'll spoil for you right away is I was shooting for kind of the typical sort of stuff. Lots of defense, as I just alluded to, and lots of recharge. And with those two things in place, I was also able to put together a lot of debuffery and damage from some procs and that sort of thing, so that this guy can kind of shred enemies. Because traps, one thing it's really good at, aside from this large amount of defense, is there's a lot of debuffery that it brings out with caltrops and acid mortar and poison trap and stuff like that. So we'll take a look here. But just kind of leveraging those things, the debuffing of resistance and defense and that sort of stuff is going to make it a lot easier to hit, a lot easier to do, extra damage. And so even though you're playing a defender here, you're going to see that this guy can put out a lot of, a lot of pain and stay very survivable. He's also going to be the kind of character that the pug teams are going to get in trouble around because they're going to be, depending on their experience level, but they're going to be inside of your, your bubble, inside of your toggles with maneuvers and that sort of stuff. And they're going to think, wow, we're awesome. We're just tearing it up and just destroying everything. These traps are just melting targets. But they're not going to attribute any of that survivability or just destruction to you because you're not flashing the pretty green or speed boosting people and stuff like that. They're just going to think they're awesome and they're going to run ahead of you, as most good pugs do, right? And they're gonna charge in, especially the lower level, pug types, and they're gonna dive into some group thinking they're awesome. This is so easy, and they're gonna get absolutely crushed because they're gonna run outside of your bubble, they're gonna run outside of your debuffery, and they're gonna get themselves killed. Anyway, that's something I think you'll see in the team. Maybe not. Depends on who I put together. But that's future. Let's take a look at the actual build itself, though. As you take a look here, traps. I've taken most everything with the exception of web grenade and temporal bomb. A couple things about that. I like web grenade, and I have it on other traps. I think I have it on a mastermind. I think I have it on a traps defender as well. So it's not a bad power. It's just that this is a pretty tight build. As you can see, I took a lot of the electric blast as well, and then I've got a lot of, really once you dive into leadership, that's kind of committing you to three powers right there. You have your travel power. There's four. So anyway, it kind of takes away from your ability to grab some of these other things like web grenade. Now, temporal bomb is a remake of time bomb. I've not yet tried it, so this actually could be good now. I think you're able to trigger it now by clicking it or something. I don't know exactly how it works. It'd be something fun to kind of play with, but I haven't done it yet, so I can't, speak ill of it at this point. I know the original Time Bomb, really wasn't that great. I think you had to plan it, and then after a certain amount of time, it would blow up, but you really couldn't predict. I don't know if that's kind of like almost like Omega maneuver in that sense, but it's like you had to stick it somewhere, and if the mobs are gone or whatever, it had like a long countdown, I think. But this power, I believe, you can place the bomb and you can detonate it once it's activated the second time. So this is like a click click. So that's kind of what makes it cool. I didn't take it though, so I'm curious about it. The other thing I'm going to say about traps that I really don't like this power, even though I keep taking it, keep thinking it's going to be good, and I keep reading about how good it is, but trip mine, it just sucks. It's great on paper and in concept, I get it, but in practice, I've never found it useful because it's interruptible. And every time you're trying to put it down in the middle of combat, you just can't because somebody hits you with some damage, even if they're not even targeting you, some AoE damage or some AoE patch like a tar patch, an earthquake. The longbow have those sonic grenades, whatever it is, anything that's laid down, debuffing, does damage, interrupts it, breaks it, and it's I got like a 3 second click or something like that. So I have it slotted. I like the idea of it, but it's not very useful if you consider, its investment. You're getting it late. It's your what, tier 8 power and traps. You're putting 5 slots into it. This thing should be getting some good numbers out of it, right? But your good use, but it just doesn't in practice. So if I were to redo this character in the future, it kind of depends on how this test goes. I was already looking at that. I'm like, maybe I can dump trip mine. Because jumping over to Electric Blast, the one thing I noticed I didn't take, which I usually almost every time, can't think of another Electric Blast that I didn't take this, is Short Circuit. I love Short Circuit, and I'm going to be getting up close to groups because I'm going to be dropping Poison Trap right on top of them. So, I've got reason to be in melee. I also have Total Focus coming over here for my big old Slamba Jamba and Energy Mastery. But I didn't take short circuit, so I was a little bit surprised when I looked at my build because I put this build together probably 2+ years ago. So kind of going back doing these build videos and these strategy videos. I kind of look at some of my old builds, going, I should probably change that, or what was I thinking or not thinking. But anyway, I don't have that one, so there's an example of, hey, maybe I would take temporal bomb, maybe I could pick up web grenade. I sure would like to get short circuit, but where do I drop to get all that stuff? Trip mine is one thing for sure I could dump, but I'm not sure where I would get any of the other available powers to be dropped. I'd have to drop something from combat jumping or something like that, which is kind of a little bit of a set mule for me. Because as I mentioned, I was going for a lot of recharge, and I do have in combat jumping, Luck of the Gambler. I've got the reactive defense scaling resistance, so I could, trade off some defense. I could trade off some recharge and scaling damage resistance to get web grenade. Is that going to be worth it? No. But anyway, yeah, so traps is a tough set to play in the sense that you're kind of really, you'd like to have all these tools in your arsenal, but you just can't do it. But anyway, so that's the kind of basic idea here. I have most of the traps, I have most of the blasts. I don't have short circuit, which is the one I'm really kind of going, I really wish I could get it. Oh, another power I was looking at that I dislike. I think I mentioned this in, I forget which other electric blaster I was playing with at some point. But anyway, Voltaic Sentinel. Again, it's kind of cool, or at least it's better than it was. You summon this little pet, it follows you around. It's sort of a fire and forget toggle now, whereas before it was a summonable that stayed around for, I don't know, 90 seconds or something like that, and then disappeared, and people would always forget about it. But now it's so forgettable, fire and forget. You don't even know what it's doing, where it is, what its function is. It's just blasting things, but it seems to hang back about 30 feet or something like that from where you are. It's zapping things. Is it doing a lot of damage? Is it targeting anything? You don't know. It doesn't even show up on your pet window. So you have no idea where it is and what it's doing. And I've already got a lot of other pets and things floating around that I'm trying to keep track of, or, I'm wondering what they're doing or not doing. So it's putting out some damage, but exactly how much, I have no idea. So there's another power that, Trip Mine, Voltaic Sentinel, I could see ditching both of those, picking up short circuit, picking up temporal bomb, perhaps. That might be something I think about as I play this character again. But anyway, so I've got all that stuff, and then the rest of my things in the pools and extra powers. You can see I was going for things that had defense, like hover, stealth. You got the leadership pool maneuvers. You got leaping with combat jumping. So those four pool powers each have a defense power in it, and each one of those defense powers I threw a Luck of the Gambler, the extra recharge. You can see that I've got that here in stealth. I've got it here in maneuvers. I've got it in combat jumping. And did I not put, I don't think I put it in hover though. No, hover I actually have the Blessing of the Zephyr, two slotted that one because it does give some range defense with two slotting. But I do have another Luck of the Gambler sitting over here in Force Field Generator. So I think I have it maxed out at five. No, it looks like I only have four of them. But anyway, I could potentially squeeze out another Luck of the Gambler somewhere if I wanted to, but I didn't. So anyway, there you go. I got a bunch of those recharges in here. I got a bunch of the traps powers, the debuffing. I got a bunch of the blasts that are going out here. And then the other thing we'll take a look at is some of the individual slotting and some of the procking that I was going for. Because, I mean, this isn't like a total proc monster build or anything, but it does have a decent chunk of them to give me the numbers that I'm looking at. And then I'll go ahead and show you my total numbers, and we'll take a look at the incarnate powers. Caltrops, probably an unsung hero of the trap set, I think, because this is a great. It doesn't have a great range on it, right? You toss a bunch of caltrops out on the ground, and they do minus speed as their main debuff. They also throw out some minor DOT damage, but if you hate the damage you take when fighting knights or knives of Artemis, you know what caltrops can do. So if you throw down what I've got here, I've put in a bombardment chance for fire damage. I've got the positrons chance for energy damage. I've got the annihilation chance for resistance debuff. So those three things right there are going to give me some decent damage output. And then I've got an annihilation over here, and second one with just the Acdam and Wreck. So boosting some of the stats. I think the accuracy is already crazy out of the box anyway, so it's not like you have to slot it for accuracy. Let me see if I can pull that up or not. Doesn't show up here. I don't know if it even makes an accuracy check, to be honest with it. It might not need to. But anyway, it does a lot of damage just because of some of the procs. I'll go ahead and do the pop-out window so you can see here. So you're tossing the little pointy thingies out on the ground. Endurance cost is decent chunk of 6. Recharge is at 21 seconds. You can only throw it 25 feet, which isn't that great. But I forget how long it lasts. Does it have the duration on there? I feel like a lot of the numbers are missing here. But anyway, if you take a look at some of the damage output you can do here, if I scoot myself out of the way a little bit, you could see that, you can do a bunch of ticks of damage. It's like telling me 830. I mean, that sounds crazy. I don't know if that's exactly correct, but it's procking a bunch of crap that's going to add up for it probably lasts 30 seconds or something like that. So if you're stuck in here, you got multiple chances of procking the damage plus the minus resistance. So I think that's where these crazy ass numbers are coming from, if I'm not mistaken. Just looking, I mean, that just looks way overkill to me. I don't know if that says it's got 46 ticks. I suppose it's possible. Doing lethal damage, and what's the other? It's like it's procking something else. I thought I have all my incarnates turned off, so it shouldn't be procking anything else. But anyway, it can put out a bunch of damage. 45-second duration. So I think that's if you're standing in it. So you really want to get this thing out. You want to get the targets to stand on it because they're going to take a bunch of damage. And if the procs are firing, they're going to be taking fire and energy, plus the resistance is getting debuffed. What is that? 20% resistance with that one. Chance or 12.5% resistance, damage resistance debuffing. So pretty awesome power. I mean, in and of itself, that's huge, right? Let's go ahead and close that for a second. So you got that bad boy. So definitely want to talk about that one because it's devastating to the enemy. They're going to try to get away from you on top of everything else. I think it has like a fear or an afraid value to it or something like that. They want to get the hell out of there, which why wouldn't you? All right, then you've got your other stuff you're slotting. So that's Caltrops Triage Beacon. I'll go down my trap set here. First, Triage Beacon. You see I've got a Panacea set here, 5 out of 6. I have the plus endurance and hit points in there as well. This does work. It does proc for you. And it also, because it's a PvP recipe, it also procs for your allies. At least that's the way it used to work. I have tested this for myself, and I know it does proc for me. Usually the hit points, I think, proc initially when you throw it out. So when you first drop it down, it fires. And then I think the proc chances are every 10 seconds or so after that. So it kind of depends on how long the fight is, how long you're standing there. So, is it gonna make or break your day? No, but it's adding a little extra oomph, little burst of heal, a little burst of endurance right as you first put it down. So as long as you kind of place it, in a decent location and people are near enough to it, it can proc again. Depends on how long that fight's gonna go. But the set itself is really what I was going for. The recharge 7.5% with that one. Then you're going down to Acid Mortar. This is your other big old debuffer. So this has minus resistance, minus defense to it. So this plus Caltrops is going to start just destroying people. I have a set of Shield Breaker in mine. And let me scoot that so you can see the pop-up better. So yeah, with the Shield Breaker, I'm getting some more defense is what the Force Sliding is doing for me, right? I'm getting some AoE defense, fire, and cold. Getting some lethal resistance, smash lethal. You're getting some recoveries. That's always good. And I put the damage proc in this one as well, the chance for lethal. You could proc this out more if you wanted to. Again, I didn't go total proc crazy on this one, but you could. Then there's force field generators. My next trap. This is your big, save your ass because you don't have a heal, and your debuffery is only going to do what it's going to do. And I think this is going to be a great chance to compare to, let's say, poison set, which would be probably, I don't want to say the equivalent, but on par with traps as far as a set that is debuff oriented but doesn't have a self heal. With poison, you've got venomous gas kind of being your save yourself power, and the poison, tree there. That's the one that's the aura that lowers incoming damage, I think. With force field generator, you don't have any minus damage. You have defense, and force field generator itself has got a huge amount of defense on it. Let me click on that power, pull that up. All right, so force field generator. Pull this up. Let's see if I can get it to show the exact numbers. No, it's not going to show it here, I don't think. Go to the, here we go. Yeah, so the defense on this one's 20%, the way I've got it slotted right now. Which is a huge chunk, 21% practically to everything. I think I've, overselling a little bit at 40%, but anyway, that's a huge amount of defense that you're getting. I've got it, max ED slotted here, and enhancement diversification. I'm at the defense, like limit as far as slotting goes. So I've got it up to, pre-ED 71%. I've got the knockback protection in here from Karma. I've got the Luck of the Gambler set. I've got the, increased recharge speed for that one. I do have the Agility Radial Paragon Incarnate, which is going to boost up my defenses even more on this power and allow me to get closer to that cap level. But, for right now, that power in and of itself is giving me 21% defense. And to kind of spoil it, if you look at my numbers, my defenses total are around 50%. So, what's that? 40%, almost half of my defense is coming just from force field generator. It can take damage. It does have to be resummoned, and it is a little bit slow on the follow, but as long as you stay in it, you'll be fine. Pretty much your team will be fine too. But if you are not in it or your team runs away from you, they suddenly lose 20% of their defense like in a second, right? So they're boom. That's what I was saying about the whole pug team, how they don't appreciate what you're doing as a trapster until they run past all of your stuff and get themselves killed. So that power in and of itself is huge. All right, then we got our next one. We got Poison Trap. This is another great power from traps. This is going to be your kind of like your alpha strike, which is why I went with stealth because I want to kind of swoop in, stealthy, just drop a poison trap right on the enemy, right under their feet. They start choking, puking, they get held, they're minus regen, minus recharge in this thing. I've got this one procced out pretty hard. I've got the neuronic shutdown, psionic damage. Ghost Widow's damage proc is in here as well. So I got two damage procs, and I force slotted it with Ghost Widow. That gives me some hit points. It gives me movement speed, which I'm going to need because my travel power, or at least my in combat power I'm using, is hover, and I like to zip around and get my fly speed as high as I can. So I got that force slotted. Plus the extra endurance is going to be good because defenders I find are a little bit dicey on endurance. That's kind of where vigilance is useful. Your inherent power, although that relies upon your allies being killed first. But anyway, endurance is usually an issue I run into. This one's not as bad, I don't think. If I take a peek at my numbers, yeah, it's okay. 3-3 versus 1-6-4. Pop that out for you as far as the values go. So my recovery is 3.3 endurance per second. My drain's 1.6. And I've said this, multiple times now in my builds. I'm shooting for at least 2-to-1 recovery to end drain, especially on a high recharge build, because you're going to be firing power super fast that your endurance, you're going to blow through it. So this number itself is sucky. Again, I've got some solutions to that in my incarnates, so it's not all doom and gloom. Plus, I've taken Victory Rush over here, which I've taken this on a couple of my more recent characters that I've been playing and showcasing. That is your recovery and endurance recovery power. All right, let's go. We've got they do secret drones. I love this power too. It's the little summonable pets, these little pseudo pets. You summon secret drones. They follow you, right on your shoulder pretty much, and they will just zip out and attack anybody that gets within their range. You got to be careful of these because, if you're trying to stealth up to an enemy and kind of scout them out real quick, if you get too close, your seekers will just zip in there, or your seekers themselves will get spotted. Don't forget that if, as a trapper, none of your floating little pets like force field generators, seeker drones, they don't have your stealth. So if you're running just stealth and don't have any, party stealth or whatever, these guys can get spotted and you can start getting attacked because your enemies will see the drones, they'll see the force field generator, or if they see just the force field generator and take a shot at it, the drones will go zipping in there and attack and kind of spoil everything. So as a trapster, you got to have a quick, decision making. You gotta, you'll see me hover, swoop up to a group, and I have to make a decision within a second or two. Where am I going? What am I trapping? Position, any specific target, that kind of stuff. One cool thing with traps, so you really have to choose targets too much because all your powers are just sort of drop it right there or put it near and it's going to shoot, acid mortar bombs at whatever. It's going to just explode if it's a poison trap and choke out a bunch of people. The trip mine will explode and, blow up a bunch of people. The caltrops will stab a bunch of people. So you don't really care about a single target. You're not focusing on that with like poison where you're like, oh my God, who is a center target because you're going to spit poison in there. You want it to splash on as many targets as you can, or there's a hard target that you're trying to, whittle down real quick. Where's the boss in the group? Or where's that sapper or the sorcerer or whatever it is that in the enemy group you're looking for, and you're trying to target that with your poison debuffs directly. So that's what makes poison hard as a debuff set, whereas traps is it's sort of like easy mode debuff if you want to think about it that way. You don't have to worry about toggles like like with a dark or with radiation. You got your toggles, your toggle runs away or whatever. Your debuff toggles, you don't have to worry about that, or your toggle gets killed. You're just dropping crap in the middle of the enemies and watching them choke, get their armor melted off their face, whatever. Downside of it is, some of your traps are not going to follow you. Acid mortar's not going to follow you. Poison trap's not following you. Your triage beacon isn't going to follow you. The only thing that follows is your drones and your force field generator. Then the last one I already mentioned is Trip Mine. Again, this is, great power on paper. If you look at the numbers on it, pop this out, it's telling me, oh yeah, hey, you can do 517 damage with an explosion the way I've got it slotted. Uh, but again, the practicality of it is that's not going to happen because you're going to have it, well, if you're able to get the trap even laying down laid down on the ground, somebody still has to step on it, right? And then you have to get enough somebody's around to really make it worth it. Because the one thing that's really freaking terrible about this power up is the endurance cost is 10, whether you get interrupted or not. This is what really freaking sucks. You're in the middle of a fight, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna drop this trip mine right underneath the enemy while they're choking on, the poison trap or trying to run away from the caltrops or whatever's going on, and you're trying to place a trip mine and you get interrupted. Like, crap, let me try to put it again. Interrupted, crap. All right, 3 times. You've already just now blown through 30 endurance and you haven't blown up a single person. That is why this power sucks, and this is why that interrupt has to be gotten rid of. I mean, it's Make the animation time longer if you have to, but this interrupt has to go. Okay, it's stupid. Why does that power have an interrupt? You know, if that, like that trap has an interrupt, well, why don't your other traps have an interrupt? Right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If you're worried about, oh, that's gonna be too much damage, well, okay, then lower the damage and get rid of the interrupt, or get rid of the interrupt and make it take the animation takes longer. I don't know, do something, but the interrupt is ridiculous. Or if it is interrupted, don't charge me the endurance cost on it. That's ridiculous. That's why this power sucks, okay? I know somebody out there's, well, you got to use it this way. Yeah, you can preemptively use it, right? Like put down three or four. I think it's three is the max you can lay down, but then you got to get the enemy to come into them. That's great maybe in a solo, sort of a game. You're pulling things in and they're blowing themselves up. But if you're playing, fast and furious like a lot of the game is nowadays, this power is just way too slow, way too unreliable. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. You can hardly use it in combat. That's my beef with it. Anyway, that's a bunch of trap stuff. Electric Blast is Electric Blast. There's nothing, overly fancy about it. It shoots, electrical attacks. The big thing there is you do get some endurance drain, of course, but I've talked about this a little bit before. Endurance drain is not a reliable mitigator of damage or control or whatever else. The best thing about it now is that it does work with the shocked mechanic. So the shocked mechanic is what this is down here. And it's essentially this that the less endurance your target has, the more damage they take, the more damage you deal. So if you can start draining things, you'll start bringing more pain to them. So that is the benefit. It's a damage boost if you want to think about it like that. But I didn't slot really anything for endurance drain except for actually Thunderous Blast I did because Thunderous Blast actually has a minus recovery on top of the endurance drain, whereas something like charged bolts only has minus endurance. So most of your attacks are minus endurance, but they don't stop recovery. So that's the big problem against, enemy mobs is that the recovery is so fast. Plus, they've got this, minimal endurance requirements for their powers. So unless you drain them to full or down to zero, and then you minus recovery to keep them there, it really doesn't do you any good. But Thunderous Blast, you'll see it has both of those effects. So if you take a look, I can lower the endurance like what 80 some percent or something like that, 90 some percent with the way I've got it slotted. I think this is the recovery. One of these is the recovery. But anyway, so you got, you're taking a huge chunk of their endurance off with Thunderous Blast. So that's why I did slot that one. Plus, it's going to give me movement speed boosting. It's going to give me the recharge boosting, because it's got up to what 6.25% on it with five slot. Yeah, so 6.25% recharge and the movement speed. So I'm getting those two things I was looking for: recharge, movement speed. Beyond that, I don't think anything special. I have some Franken slotting in some of these. Like I've got the what is this? The Vigilant Assault set. So I got Superior Vigilant Assault. I've three slotted it in Charge Bolts and Lightning Bolt, my tier one and two blasts. And the reason for that is three slotting gives you 10 endurance boosting. So that's 20% endurance, or sorry, recharge boosting just with those things. And then I filled in the rest with Thunderstrike in order to bring it up to, cap levels of accuracy, damage, that sort of stuff. So you can see it by three slotting with the Thunderstrike plus three slots in Superior Vigilant Assault. I've got these things, pegged at their max accuracy and damage. And the Thunderstrike triple slotting gives me some additional recovery and range defense. I've got that extra range defense and recovery coming in here. The other powers that are important to talk about, we got Ball Lightning, Posi set in there. That's going to give me some more recharge. It's going to give me some more recovery. Nothing fancy there. I do have the damage proc in it. Zap, I have Sting of the Manicore in there. Again, for recharge purposes, 7.5%. Give me some range defense as well. Got the chance for toxic damage in there. We got Voltaic Sentinel, 4 slotted. Give me the recharge with the Expedient Reinforcement set. It's a little bit of damage boosting in there as well. Then Total Focus, I have a Mako's in that one, some damage. So this is my big old, single target punchy punch. It's kind of a luxury power pretty much at this point. I think the big reason I went with Energy Mastery sitting right here, power build up, it's like your power boost, but it's damage, accuracy, and your specials. This is also why I didn't bother taking charge up. Normally I would take charge up to get the, that's a hit, the damage boosting. I skipped that though, went with power build up. Originally this was just aim, which I think was just, plus to hit. So charge up is, when this power set was redone a couple years ago to give that shocked mechanic and stuff and make Electric Blast, more on par with the other blast sets. It was charge up was added, so it does have a little bit, extra interest to it. It has the damage boosting, it has an end mod boosting to it. So that could be useful if you're worried about endurance. Maybe you go with this one, but I was going with at the time again. This has been a couple years ago. Power build up. This is that power boost set that you can get with the old hero side ancillary power pools. Whereas I think the only other place you can get it is from what is it, Ghost Widow's set there. Although Soul Mastery, although I think that is not 100% true anymore. But again, rewind time, this made more sense back then. So anyway, that's why I skipped it. I had power build up. I have tactics running, so I'm not worried about to hits and accuracy. So I didn't feel I needed the old aim at the time or the charge up. Nowadays, maybe it would be useful to get that one and not go with energy mastery. I could ditch energy mastery and maybe go and grab. I think they have ice mastery now for defenders, and it probably has the defense shield in it, which could be useful. So this guy could definitely get respect. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Then the last thing we'll take a look at are those incarnate powers. Coming down here, I can actually turn on my numbers. So here are my numbers with incarnates off, but all my other toggle stuff is activated. So all my other toggles are on right now. And so with force field generator, I'm sitting around 50% defense, right? Let me do the pop out here so you can zoom in on that. So I've got really strong defenses just the way I have my slots done, just with my basic defender toggles and force field generator activated. Damage resistance is terrible other than some smash lethal. But when I go ahead and turn on my alpha, those numbers are popping up, what, another 5%? That's boosting me across the board. So we go from, upper 40s into low 50s, 60% on a lot of these defenses. My positional ones, 54, 60, 56. So really strong defenses across the board. And if something does get through, which it can, right? Especially if you get some minus defense thrown on you, because unlike like armor sets from tanks and such, I don't think you have any sort of defense debuff resistance in this build. Like force field generator doesn't give it to you, so you get minus defense thrown on you. You're pretty much getting this crap shredded. Or let's say your force field generator gets blown up, then or it despawns. You're going to start taking some pain because you've only got smash lethal resistance. But that is the one that I picked. If I could get any resistance at all, I wanted smash lethal. Those are like your two most common damage types you're going to take throughout the game. All right, so I got that. That's from Agility Radial Paragon. That's going to give me, scroll down a little bit for you. That's giving you endurance mod. So endurance mod across all my attack powers. My, endurance training is going to be a little bit better. It's going to help my stamina, my recovery, right? So if I take a look at that recovery numbers, I go from 3.3 to 3.5 when I activate this. So now I'm definitely over 2 to 1. Plus, it's increasing my flight speed, which I need because I'm relying upon hover to move everywhere. I don't have a standard travel power. Then I've also taken support core because this gives you a endurance reduction across the board. So if I click that, it drops my end drain from 1.6 down to 1.5. So that's going to be helpful. So I turn it on. Boom. It's also boosted my defenses, as you can see. I'm going up another, what is that, 8% or something like that? 12%, 12.5% looks like. So core, support core embodiment, it's really going to help this build with the defenses. Now I'm pushing like, what's that, soft cap? I think it's 75%. Don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I'm in the 60s and 70% of defenses across most of these things now. You're getting some more accuracy, you're getting some more damage with this power. You're boosting your specials. You've heard about me talk about that a bunch lately. So that's also going to team up with your power buildup because if you click power buildup, it should also boost your defenses. Yeah, so like you click power buildup, boom, now your defenses are 100% and higher. So that's awesome, right? And my power buildup is on a recharge every 7 seconds, and the duration is what, 2.2? So, I mean, that's not the greatest duration, but every 7, 8 seconds, I'm able to click this thing. So that's huge. So my defenses are going to be constantly getting PBU buffed just from clicking that power if I'm trying to hit something with that. So think about that as another benefit of the slotting and just the power choices. Then as far as damage goes, I'm a little bit low on damage, so I've taken reactive radial. That's going to help team up with, acid mortar and the caltrops doing the minus resistance there. So you grab reactive radial flawless. And we'll take a look at my caltrop numbers now. Click that caltrops. So now it's telling me my caltrops are doing 990. That's insane, right? Charge bolts is compared to like charge bolts, 101. Zap is doing 428. 428. I have to keep scooting out of the way. 428. But caltrops, and if they just sit in caltrops, they're going to get just obliterated. 900. I don't know if that's a bug or not, but that's just like insane if that's true. Total focus, I mean, that's only doing 260 for God's sakes. Caltrops is like destroying things. So boom, man, that's awesome. So anyway, reactive, minus resistance, fire damage over time. I took Ion, was my big old boom boom judgment power. That's going to do a huge amount of damage. That's 609 damage with that thing. Then you got a radial, where it gets a chance to hold, give me some extra controls because I do have Tesla Cage. I do have the poison traps. I do have other holds that'll help, get some more holding going on. Ageless is my other choice here. This is more recharge, right? Let me go back to the totals. So more recharge, you're going to get more endurance. So recharge goes from 90 up to 160. So I already have 90% boost in recharge. This will take me up to 160. So that'll just be insane levels. You can get a big old endurance boost at the same time. This does have, I did go with the radial. So here's where I can get some defense debuff resistance. So this does bring defense debuff resistance in it. Let's see what it tells me what the numbers are. Resist effects. I think it's right here. Resist effects. Looks like slows defense. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure which one of these is clicking to me. I'm assuming one of these is me. One of those might be my allies or something like that. So it does have defense debuff resistance as well as other resistances in it. So that's your ageless, right? I mean, ageless, throw that in there. And then Warworks, no particular reason otherwise, other than it kind of goes with my theme of being this technology wizard kind of guy. He's got some lots of little gadgets, lots of little gizmos, lots of little traps, robots. So you bring out the Warworks, and which would I go with? Radial. So the Radial's got the battle orb in it. The battle orb has a shield as well. So it's kind of like its own little. I think this one might be a resistance shield though. I forget. I know it might be the IDF has the resistance shield, but anyway. So it's gonna give you a shield. Does it say on here? See the boss, the support. I don't know if it'll pop up anywhere. Thought you could double click it, and some of these I don't know. I wish there was a little more info. Is easier to find, but I think some of these do open and give you more information. Like yeah, this one was telling me with the boss, but the support doesn't tell me shit. Anyway, it's got a shield, so that's why I took it. Give me some more defense, more resistance, more survivability. This guy, depending on the enemies, he can kind of tank a little bit, because I do have such high defenses, right? So if I'm able to, get my defenses bare minimum 60, 70%, right? Then I go ahead and, power build up. Boom, I'm at 100%, right? I'm able to swoop in there. and not get touched. Right? And then as soon as I get in there and start dropping these bombs on people, just laying traps, it's game over, man. Game over, man. Game over. Put the kid in charge. All right, so there you go. That is Otto von Kleese and my Defender Traps Electric. We're going to go ahead and run some solos to see if I'm just talking crap here or if this actually works or not. And I think, oh yeah, I think the drones, by the way, this is kind of popping up in my head. I think the drones do not carry this negative damage with them. I think somebody showed me that, or I think I proved it to myself as well. So take a look at this. I have a clouded census. There was something I remember from way back when testing a different trapper and posted about it like a year ago that somebody had mentioned that I think it was on the forums or whatever that the seeker drones don't carry damage procs or something like that. I don't know, I forget because damage procs I think for the most part require a to hit check, and so certain things like the debuff on these I don't think has a to hit check. So ergo the chance to damage something is not going to get carried through because there's no check triggering it, I think. So I'll take a look for that because if that's true, then I'll have to change this set out. Although I do like the recharge, I instead of the negative energy, I'll just go with maybe to hit debuff. I'll throw that in there, or if I need some more recharge, the recharge on this right now is 21 seconds, so I could get that faster recharge with the accuracy recharge, or I could go with some more to hit debuff free out of it. What is it to hit debuff that this thing is throwing out there? 17.21 is what its to hit debuff is. So I could, get that even higher. Throw the straight to hit debuff in there. That's up to because this is, another way to survive, right? Is got a lot of defense, but if you to hit debuff, then they can't hit you. All right, there you go. Check out the solos, and we'll test the build and see what it does. We'll catch you later. Later.